Your new defensive identity is in the books, Auburn fans. Coach Hugh Freeze has his defensive coordinator. Let's talk about who that is. I'm going to give you 10 facts that you need to know about this coach. But always, before we do that, I want to remind you to smash the like button if you enjoy this type of content, and be sure to leave a comment down below as you're watching or listening today. It will help enter you into that ongoing subscriber giveaway. Details are listed in the description for this video. And lastly, do want to thank members of our booster club like Cohen Donnie, who help produce videos like this. One more collective sigh of relief after we were lamenting on social media about not knowing the offensive and defensive coordinator hires. Well, now you know both. The offensive coordinator hire we've already talked about. Go check that out in the previous video if you haven't done so already. But for this video, 10 facts that you need to know about your brand new defensive coordinator, Ron Roberts, formerly of Baylor football, that we'll be talking about joining the staff of Hugh Freeze. In fact, number one, we start off by talking about who he's going to be replacing at defensive coordinator. That guy's name, Jeff Schmedding, who has been your DC for the last entire season with Brian Harsin, but also in the interim period with Coach Cadillac Williams. What's more interesting to think about is, will he take a holistic DC approach, or will he want to also focus alongside that role in a different position group as he has in the past, such as inside linebackers? Now, currently, Christian Robinson, who is being retained, is going to be our linebackers coach, but he could maybe break that out and just do outside linebackers as has been done previously. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. In fact, number two, we talk about his coaching experience. What does he bring into the table? The level of experience. Well, just like with offensive coordinator position, this guy has been around for quite some time. 33 years that he has been coaching on some level. Now, the majority of that has been spent at some smaller colleges and the FCS level, but most recently he's been known for his time at Baylor, where he was just recently let go by head coach Dave Aranda. For fact number three, we like to start breaking down that coaching experience a little bit, and we're going to focus here about his high school and pro experience. Now, he has no pro experience. We've talked about this with previous coaches, not necessarily a bad thing, but it is nice to know that at least he has some other different experience to talk about, that being at the high school level. So here is what his resume says. 7 different years at the high school level, from 1990 to 1993 at Houston High School in Tennessee as the defensive coordinator, in 1994 to 1996 at Burroughs High School in California as the head coach, and moved over to head coach in 2004 of Mount Whitney High School in California. So he's done it as a head coach, but also as a defensive coordinator at that level. In number four, we're going to take a deeper dive into that college experience that he has. And I'm going to let you look at his resume as opposed to me just reading the whole thing off for you, but some things that I'd like to point out for you from his college experience. 11 of his years have been spent as a head coach. 15 of those years have been spent as a defensive coordinator, and amongst those defensive coordinator years, 5 of those have been at the FBS level. And so even though he hasn't spent a lot of time at that particular highest level of college football, you can see how well respected as a defensive mind he is. In number 5, I want to mention what we've already kind of hit on once before. There is no SEC experience for this defensive coordinator. Not necessarily a knock on him. You would like to see some of that, but it's not like a requirement to be a defensive coordinator in the SEC. You have seen a nice trajectory of him moving up to the FBS level at Baylor now, which means he's probably deserved his time here. In number 6, we're going to talk about his playing history, and he's a native of California. More on that in just a little bit, but where he played for college. Sequoia's College from 1986 to 1987. In 1988 to 1989, he moved over to the state of Tennessee to play for the Tennessee Martin Skyhawks. All of those years, he played as a linebacker, so now you kind of understand where he likes to put his emphasis on when he coaches position groups. In number 7, we like to talk about big coaching influence, and this is kind of interesting as opposed to a lot of the other coaches. He is the coaching influence. He's the guy known for having a coaching tree, but the big name that you want to kind of associate with Ron Roberts is Dave Aranda. First of all, because the Baylor head coach was once his defensive coordinator at a different level, but then he became Dave Aranda's defensive coordinator for a few seasons at Baylor. It's interesting to see if that comes into play at all, if they're very similar. They're both defensive-minded, obviously, but I wonder if we'll see any shades of a Dave Aranda type defense here with Ron Ron Roberts now, basically his mentor. In number 8, we like to talk about regional ties and recruiting. And as we've talked about in some of the other facts, he's a native of California and has spent a decent amount of his time in the state of Tennessee. Now, we have a lot of coaches with connective tissue to the Tennessee state, and so there's going to be a lot of that going on from those coaches, I'm sure. What I am most intrigued by is not only his connections that he's built throughout college football, throughout his many years, but I like that he's got some connections to the state of California. Auburn's not known for drawing commits out of there very often, but it would be interesting to see if that connection he has with that state plays at all in his time here. So for number 9, we're going to look at what Baylor's defense looked like last year because it will help inform us what to anticipate could be coming to Auburn. Keep in mind, he was fired. It wasn't that great of a year. We're also going to look at his best year, that 2021 year. So here are some of the stats from 2022 to keep in mind. Yards per game, 370.3. Passing yards that they gave up per game, 232.8. Rushing yardage given up per game, 137.6. And points per game, 26.6. But look at that 2021 year. Not necessarily stats, but just some facts that I want to point out. They led the Big 12 in interceptions, 19 total for that year. They were one of 3 teams in the country to limit every opponent to 30 points or fewer in that season. And they also, big thing here, shut down Lane Kiffin in the Sugar Bowl. That should show you that they have the capability to be a very powerful defense under his leadership. And finally, number 10, we're going to talk about notable coaches that he has a part of his coaching tree, some names that you may currently be very familiar with as part of the defensive minds of today. Patrick Toney, Carl Scott, Pete Golding, and of course, Dave Aranda, that shows you that he has a long line of history of producing not only great defenses, but great defensive minds. So those are my thoughts and 10 facts for you to know about Ron Roberts, your new Auburn football defensive coordinator. Would love to know yours down in the comments section below. Be sure to do that so you can enter into that ongoing subscriber giveaway. And of course, be subscribed if you haven't done that. That's part of the process too. Be sure to check out the links in the description for ways to help support our content. And always, we thank you for being here at E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. War Eagle.